Welcome back to Focus Today. I'm Steve Johnson, and we have a guest who has been on the air before, but not with me. Perry's talked to him the whole time, so I'm glad that I've got a chance to talk to our guest, Robert Spencer. He's the director of Jihad Watch and the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam and the Truth About Muhammad. His latest book is called Did Muhammad Exist? And it is now available, and it's good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, Robert.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
You've written an article that I find fascinating, and let me just read a little bit of the very beginning, and I'd like you to tell us what in the world is going on. You've written about a vindicated Bachmann under attack, and you write, the leftist advocacy group People for the American Way has launched out an all-in-all-out war against Representative Michele Bachmann, and on Monday plans to present, I assume that was yesterday, but we'll get that from you, plans to present House Speaker John Boehner with a petition bearing 178,000 signatures demanding that Bachmann not be reappointed to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Okay, what is going on?
Well, the People for the American Way is gunning for Bachmann because of her attempt to get an investigation started on Muslim Brotherhood infiltration into the U.S. government. And what's bitterly ironic about this, and why Vindicated was in my headline, is that just a week ago or so, a couple weeks ago, an Egyptian newspaper published an article boasting about Muslim Brotherhood infiltration in the U.S. government and naming a lot of the same names that Bachmann had called for an investigation about. Now, it may be that they're just grandstanding and don't have any basis for their claims, but it was just another indication that, and among many, many others, that it's perfectly reasonable to ask the question, which is all that Congresswoman Bachmann has done, about Muslim Brotherhood infiltration, and it shows that an investigation is warranted. In any other context, if a foreign power had published an article saying we have these people, these agents on the ground infiltrating the U.S. government, there would immediately be an investigation. But because of Obama's support for the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, there has been nothing except attacks on Bachmann.
Now, I know that People for the American Way have been around since, the mid-'70s, early 70s? Yeah. Is that right? I'm sorry?
It's Norman Lear's group, the TV producer, far-left TV producer.
Right, and he's been around kind of now probably more so in the background. I think, didn't he produce like All in the Family and some of those shows?
Yes, that's right. I'm not even sure if he's still alive. If he is, he's very old. But in any case, the group lives on and is dedicated to the same kind of leftist political agitation that he featured on those shows in the 70s.
Is this yet a further turn to the left for that group? It was already a left group, but is this much more of a swing towards that angle, do you think?
Well, I don't think it represents a big change for the People for the American Way, but it does represent a telling indication of the tendency of leftist groups to ally with Islamic supremacist groups. The Muslim Brotherhood is an organization that is dedicated, in its own words, according to a captured internal document, to eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within. And to say that we want to protect the Muslim Brotherhood, we want to work with the Muslim Brotherhood, we don't want to investigate Muslim Brotherhood infiltration into the U.S. government is very strange, but it is not surprising for a leftist group, as leftist groups have been allying with Islamic supremacist groups for quite some time now, and this is just the latest example of it.
Now, from your writing, it doesn't look as if Speaker Boehner is exactly that enamored with Michele Bachmann anyway, but what do you think he's going to do with these 178,000 signatures demanding, again, that Michele Bachmann not be given a seat on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence?
Well, I wouldn't be in the least surprised if he gives them what they want. He has already repudiated Congresswoman Bachmann's call for an investigation into Muslim Brotherhood infiltration into the government. And so it seems likely that given that he is already on record as saying this doesn't need to be done and this call should not have been made, he's in line with the People for the American Way petition. So why wouldn't he give them what they want?
Now, I can't imagine this is getting a whole lot of press from the mainstream. Am I right on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. None at all.
So is this going to get much at any point, do you think?
Well, if he does say that she's not going to be reappointed to the committee, that will get a lot of press, and it will be gleeful, victorious crowing because the mainstream media largely ridiculed her call for an investigation into Muslim Brotherhood infiltration into the government, mind you, without ever actually examining the evidence that she put forward as reasonable grounds for such an investigation.
Is there anybody in Congress who's willing to take that standard with her at this point?
Well, there are a few. Congressman Gohmert from Texas and a few others here and there. Probably Peter King in New York. They, I'm sure, would support her call for an investigation. But the problem is that the larger Republican Party is completely already compromised on these issues because of the deleterious influence of Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform. He has his tax pledge, and that's all to the good, but he is also the single most effective enabler of Muslim Brotherhood influence in Washington. This has been documented for years in many places. And because he gets politicians emboldened to him with his tax pledge, beholden to him, I should say, with his tax pledge, then they feel as if they cannot criticize Muslim Brotherhood influence in the government without crossing him. And so the Republican Party has been effectively hamstrung on this issue.
Let's, now that we've got the swearing in for the next term, we have this divided Congress yet, but you're seeing some changes perhaps going on from what I can tell in the Republican Party that way. What do you think the next 4 years is going to bring us when it comes to the bigger picture, that perhaps this censuring of Michele Bachmann could very well be an indication of that. But what do you think is going to be playing out? Any speculation in the next 4 years as it comes to Islamic influence in Western civilization?
Well, I just think it's going to grow exponentially. Barack Obama has been consistent, not only as president, but throughout his political career, in partnering with Palestinian jihad-linked elements, partnering with Islamic supremacists in various ways. He has been the single greatest enabler of the Muslim Brotherhood takeover of Egypt, as well as the takeover by allied Salafi and pro-Sharia Islamic supremacist groups in Tunisia and Libya, and probably also Syria to come. And so he is probably going to just continue on the same track and help them out even more.
Do you think it could accelerate? Some people have speculated that there's nothing now stopping President Obama. He can't run for another 4 years according to our Constitution. Do you think we're going to see him accelerate his agenda in that regard?
Yes, certainly. He does not have the accountability, as you say, of another re-election, and so he will probably feel free to implement his ideology, which is a hard left ideology, a deeply committed socialist ideology. He will do it even more energetically. And the problem there, we come back again to the leftist Islamic supremacist alliance. The leftists working hand in hand with Islamic supremacists will just continue and accelerate, because Obama will be enabling those leftists. And of course, he's already shown that for whatever reason, or combination of reasons, he clearly thinks that Sharia regimes are a good thing that he wants to encourage. And so he will probably step up his aid for them.
Let me just ask you, as you kind of step back a little bit from this and you look at what's happening in the United States, is your concern that people understand what's going on and aren't doing anything about it, or that people don't care and haven't a clue what's happening under our very noses? I mean, does it come down to one of those two?
I think that most people have no clue. Most people don't know what's going on because the mainstream media isn't telling them. You know, for 11 years now, I've been working in the public arena and I've been interviewed by a lot of reporters, and never have I mean, I've come to see mainstream reporters when they're coming along. It's like, here comes a predator who is going to try to make me look as bad as possible, and not somebody who is going to try to fairly report on events. Now, that's not just about me. That is about anybody who is not in line with the leftist, politically correct, established opinions. And so people just, most of the American public still rely on the mainstream media for their understanding of events. They really don't know what's going on because they have not been told, and they've been willfully deceived.
It doesn't sound like you're too optimistic for the next 4 years.
I think the next 4 years are to be survived, and I hope we do come out of them relatively unscathed. But no, I don't see anything really good happening within them, except perhaps the coalescing of various freedom movements and pro-Constitution movements in the United States.
Dr., or I should say Robert Spencer, Director of Jihad Watch. How can people, do you have a website they can go to find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, it's jihadwatch.org. That's jihadwatch.org, updated many times daily with news and commentary about jihad activity and the reasons and the motives behind it, which are covered up by the mainstream media.
And they can also check out the books that you've written as well there, right?
That's right.
Robert Spencer, thanks for being with us today on Focus Today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.